The CBC's Lindsay Duncombe was at that news conference where the LNG deal was just announced. She joins us live from Vancouver. So, Lindsay, why is this agreement such a big deal?
Well, it's a big deal, Andrew, because you heard what the minister said. The fact that the German company is coming forward and saying, we want this gas, brings the whole project closer to a final investment decision that could mean they could move forward on construction and the possibility of the facility going ahead as planned. It's also an indication that there is demand. We've been talking about what the energy markets are going to look like 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And this is a commitment that says from the Germans that we believe that we are going to need this. And certainly the uncertainty created by the war in Iran and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz has a lot of countries rethinking their dependence on the United States. And that has them thinking about Canada, as we saw today. It's also interesting to think about natural gas from here in British Columbia going all the way to Germany. And again, that's an indication of the anticipated demand. It wouldn't necessarily be that particular gas that would go, because the way natural gas markets work is it could be swapped with other gas that is closer. But this is a strong vote of confidence in a project that people have been talking about and building forward, particularly the Nisga'a Nation in this province for a long time. So really building up to that final investment decision in a climate, in a world that is rapidly changing with respect to demand for energy.
Yeah, Lindsay, the swapping of the gas was something interesting to me that I had never thought about, but I guess that cuts down on the travel time and everyone gets the gas that they say they need. Is there opposition to this deal?
Yeah, there is, because this is a major industrial project. Natural gas is a cleaner fossil fuel, you will hear, but it still is a fossil fuel. And a lot of people, or some environmental groups, believe this is not going in the right direction. And there's also opposition to a pipeline that is going to have to bring that natural gas to the Silason's facility. And we've seen a little bit of that. I spoke to the now hereditary chief sustainability director about a year ago. The concern that she raised, and is being raised by some in that area, is salmon habitat. The American company that is working with the Nisga'a Nation is working to get agreements along that transmission route, but pipelines are controversial. Big industrial projects are controversial. And I also asked the president of the Nisga'a Nation, a partner in this, leading this, what about some of the things that we've heard from the communities and from other environmental activists, that their partner is a big American or an American company, and here was her answer to that.
The Nisga'a Nation came out of the gate in recognition of the changing times in the world. The Nisga'a Nation didn't stop at entering into partnerships with just Canadians, but we sought world-leading businesses that will assist with the project, and that will assist in bringing Canada together. One of the biggest things that the nation did coming out of the gate with the pipeline, we did the consultations with all of the Indigenous groups along the pipeline. Granted, there will be there's a whole mixture of thoughts there, but more and more of our Indigenous people are beginning to recognize the very trying times that the world is facing. And so they're looking at ways to bring prosperity to their people, because when you think about it, many of us, the Indigenous groups, were managing poverty. We now want to manage prosperity.
And I asked the federal minister about the fact that the last time there was a natural gas pipeline that was built through a similar route or in northern British Columbia, we saw a lot of conflict, blockades, not just in British Columbia, but in other parts of Canada too. The message from the provincial government, as well as from the Nisga'a Nation and the federal government, is that that was then and this is now. And they're pointing to polling that shows that Canadians are increasingly open to these major industrial projects, including pipelines, because of the way the world has changed. And while there will be conflict, these officials do not foresee the same kind of pushback that we had previously seen.
Lindsay, thank you. That is the CBC's Lindsay Duncombe in Vancouver. The CBC senior business reporter Peter Armstrong joins me now with more in studio. So Peter, as we look at the broader economic impact, what stands out to you from what we heard or maybe didn't hear today?
Yeah, and I think the extent to which this kind of moves the ball further down the court is important to mark, right? Like, we knew they needed to get more of these offtake agreements where they basically, you can say, Shell's going to buy so much, Total's going to buy so much, now Cefe, this German utility, is going to buy so much. They still need some more, but this gets them a lot closer to their target. You got to get to about 80% of total before you can get to that. This moves them along. And Tim Hodgson says he now expects that FID, that final investment decision, within what he said is a matter of months, and that they can get into shovels in the ground and actual construction thereafter. That's fast. That's fast. And it's interesting to me that you now have, almost oddly, you have this race emerging where LNG Canada Phase 2 is looking to get into production around 2029, 2030. You've got the Darlington nuclear refurbished, the SMRs that are going to be put in here, looking at like 2029. That Contrecoeur graphite mine in Quebec, about 2029, and now this into the early 2030s. You got those four early major projects that are really racing to the finish line, and it'll be interesting to see which one gets across that finish line first. This gets them closer, not to the finish line, but to that FID, and getting that FID, I think, is going to be a major, major milestone, not just for this project, but for that idea that Canada's following through on all of those really good words that we heard about getting projects done and redoing things and building at, pace we hadn't seen in generations, or whatever the line was. Getting those shovels in the ground as quickly as possible will be a major milestone for that whole idea.
And it's interesting because, Canada is relatively new to the LNG export market. It's only a few years old, right? And the Energy Minister, Tim Hodgson, repeatedly talked about security of supply. He said that international voices are taking a fresh look at Canada as a trusted supplier in an uncertain world, saying Canada doesn't weaponize energy exports, and that's a big deal in a, uncertain world.
It is. And you heard the words stable and reliable and secure over and over and over again from not just him, but from the president of the Nisga'a Nation, from the BC's energy minister. And that idea, that has always been the pitch, right? That's the business case. That not only is it a stable environment where you're going to be able to get, product out into market once we build this, but also that there's vast reserves, right? One of the concerns with a lot of the places that run LNG is that, well, they've got it now, but if they're supplying their local and domestic demand, especially as AI ramps up and the demand for energy goes through the roof, they've got it now, but are they going to be able to export in 5 years, in 10 years? This is a 20-year deal to agree to export 1 million metric tons a year to Germany. So that reliability is a key tenet of that whole pitch.
Peter, thank you. CBC senior business reporter Peter Armstrong.